On the 28th of March, the richest league in cricket, Indian Premier League, returned for its 19th season, with title holders Royal Challengers Bengaluru taking on Sunrisers Hyderabad at the M. Chinnaswamy Stadium in Bengaluru. In a departure from the usual flashy opening ceremony, a minute of silence and 11 empty seats. Those were honouring young fans who lost their lives in last year's tragic stampede marked the beginning of the IPL juggernaut this season. Hello and welcome. I'm your host Kripa with a brand new episode of the show Inside South Asia. On the 27th of March, rapper turned politician Balendra Shah was sworn in as Nepal's Prime Minister, a culmination of a political journey which has been nothing short of meteoric. While the mood of the nation was euphoric and filled with great expectations, the very next day, in pre-dawn raids, the former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and his former Home Minister were arrested over alleged involvement in last year's protest crackdown. Nepal once again is besieged with political turbulence, with the escalating protests exhibiting no signs of abating. Our next report brings you the details.
Nepal, the Himalayan nation of nearly 13 million people, has once again been plunged into political turmoil. The streets of Kathmandu once again resemble a battleground, with fierce clashes reported between the supporters of former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and the riot police. On the 28th of March, no sooner did the news of arrest of the former Prime Minister spread, did the supporters of the veteran communist leader, numbering in hundreds, pour onto the streets demanding his immediate release. Angry demonstrators chanting pro-Oli slogans, burnt tires, blocked roads, and clashed with riot police, thereby transforming parts of the capital into battlegrounds. Police erected barricades and used batons to push back the defiant protesters who had gathered near the court complex in Kathmandu. For many in Nepal, the scenes of pitched battle were eerily familiar. Angry crowds, arson, and fierce clashes with the riot police have become a recurring theme in the political landscape of the country. Barely months ago, Nepal witnessed one of the most violent chapters in its recent history. In early September last year, protests led by largely Gen Z demonstrators erupted after a brief social media ban. The movement quickly expanded into a nationwide outpouring of anger over corruption, economic stagnation, and political nepotism. Within just 2 days, the unrest left at least 76 people dead and more than 2,300 injured, shaking to the core Nepal's fragile political system. Government buildings were set ablaze, the parliament was torched, and angry crowds stormed the offices of the Prime Minister and President. Police stations were attacked and the homes of senior politicians vandalized, forcing several leaders to flee the capital in army helicopters. The wave of unrest eventually swept away KP Sharma Oli's government, and the fallout from those protests is still being felt. Before dawn on the 28th of March, trucks carrying riot police arrived at the homes of Oli and his former Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak. Authorities arrested Oli at his residence on the outskirts of Kathmandu. Lekhak was also detained and both men were taken to the Kathmandu District Police Office.
The Communist Party of Nepal will go to the street, parliament and court for justice. He is always on the side of democracy and accepts the rule of law.
74-year-old Oli, who has served as Nepal's Prime Minister 4 times, is now facing serious allegations linked to the government's crackdown during the 2025 Gen Z uprising. A government inquiry commission concluded that Oli had failed to act to stop hours of firing by security forces that killed at least 19 protesters on the first day of demonstrations. The commission accused Oli and Lekhak of criminal negligence and declared that their claims of being unaware of the violence appeared to be an attempt to shift responsibility. On the 29th of March, the Kathmandu District Court ordered that both men remain in custody for at least 5 more days while investigations continue. The court has also rejected a habeas corpus petition filed by Oli's wife, though it did ask the government to justify his continued detention. On the 5th of March last month, the Himalayan nation held its first election since the youth-led uprising last September that toppled Oli's government. Riding a wave of public anger over the death of protesters, rapper-turned-politician Balendra Shah and his centrist Rashtriya Swatantra Party swept a landslide victory. Shah had campaigned on a promise of tackling corruption and holding those responsible for the violence accountable. But the hasty manner in which Oli was taken into custody just 1 day after Shah was sworn in as Prime Minister has taken everyone by surprise and triggered accusations of political revenge.
It is a politics of revenge. Less than 24 hours after the RSP government was formed, he was arrested early in the morning before 6 a.m. This is political vendetta. This culture should be ended here. This is our demand.
Before the election, Nepal had been governed by an interim government led by the country's first female Prime Minister, retired Supreme Court Judge Sushila Karki. Former Prime Minister Oli had himself framed the recent election quite starkly. During campaigning, he had described the contest as a battle between those who burned the country and those who build it. The voters, angry and frustrated over a plethora of issues, delivered a decisive verdict against him. Now, with their leader in custody, Oli's Communist Party of Nepal has rejected the investigating commission's findings. Party leaders have called the arrest illegal and an act of revenge and demanded his immediate release. The party has also called for nationwide protests, giving rise to fears that Nepal could once again descend into chaos and widespread unrest.
The political storm in Nepal is far from settling. Former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli and former Home Minister Ramesh Lekhak will remain behind bars for 3 more days after the Supreme Court refused to grant them immediate relief. But the court has now turned the spotlight back on the government, led by Balendra Shah, demanding a written explanation for the arrest and even for the Karki Commission that holds both the leaders responsible for the deadly crackdown during the Gen Z protests in September. The court has only issued the show cause order, meaning Oli's immediate release is very unlikely.
For a country already struggling with high unemployment, economic stagnation and deep political divisions, the latest crisis doesn't bode well for its future. Nepal now finds itself at a fragile crossroads, caught between demands for justice from a restless younger generation and resistance from an entrenched political establishment. Will the arrest of one of Nepal's most powerful leaders finally deliver accountability? Or will it push the country deeper into a vicious cycle of protests, confrontation and political instability?
On the 29th of March, when Islamabad expressed an interest to broker and host meaningful talks between the United States and Iran to bring an end to their war, it took many by surprise. The inevitable questions swirled about how a country embroiled in conflict with two of its neighbors, Afghanistan and India, is positioning itself as a messenger of peace, notwithstanding the support for its peace efforts, including from the United Nations and China. Check this next report as it explores further.
How did Islamabad emerge as a mediator, an unlikely one, in the Iran war? A country that has been bombing its western neighbor, Afghanistan, and has repeatedly provoked India, triggering fears of a nuclear escalation only last year, finds itself in favor with both Washington and Tehran. Analysts are of the opinion that when Pakistan's senior leaders went out of their way to flatter the American President Donald Trump, the move really helped their cause in Washington and positioned Pakistan as a more attractive facilitator and mediator. It didn't hurt that Pakistan nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize in what it described as in recognition of his decisive diplomatic intervention during the Pakistan-India conflict last year. The head of Pakistan's armed forces, Field Marshal Asim Munir, is in Donald Trump's favor, who the American president has described as his favorite field marshal, and has even spoken effusively about Munir's knowledge of Iran. On the 27th of March, during a televised national address, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had claimed that he had launched tireless diplomatic efforts to establish peace in West Asia.
To end this war, Pakistan is making full and sincere efforts at the diplomatic level to mediate so that the region and the brotherly Islamic countries can be saved from this devastating war and its negative consequences, and to pave the path to lasting peace through collective consultation and wisdom. As Muslims, we all have the same longing for peace in our hearts. In this context, I have held detailed discussions several times with the leaders of Iran and the Gulf countries.
A couple of days later, on the 29th of March, Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar hosted his counterparts from Saudi Arabia, Egypt and Turkey for several hours in the Pakistani capital, Islamabad. Subsequent to the meeting, in which reportedly adverse effects of the Iran war were discussed at length, Ishaq Dar, who is also Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister, said that the visitors expressed their full support for potential US-Iran talks in Islamabad.
I briefed the visiting brother foreign ministers on the prospects of potential US-Iran talks in Islamabad. The visiting foreign ministers expressed their fullest support to this initiative. The foreign ministers reaffirmed unity to contain the situation, reduce the risk of military escalation, and create conditions for structured negotiations between relevant parties. Pakistan is very happy that both Iran and the US have expressed their confidence in Pakistan to facilitate the talks. Pakistan will be honored to host and facilitate meaningful talks between the two sides in coming days for a comprehensive and lasting settlement of the ongoing conflict.
It is to be noted that in September last year, Pakistan signed a defense pact with Saudi Arabia. Considering Iran has targeted US military bases in Saudi Arabia and has attacked key Saudi oil infrastructure, including Aramco facilities, what would Pakistan do if Saudi Arabia joined the war and invoked the pact? Also with neighboring Iran, Pakistan shares a 900-kilometer or so border and has had a complex relationship. In January 2024, Iran and Pakistan had engaged in tit-for-tat missile and drone strikes, targeting militant groups in their respective border regions. Pakistan perhaps is banking on the fact that it has no US air bases and has so far not been pulled into the conflict. If Pakistan's foreign minister is to be believed, both he and Prime Minister Sharif have held several calls with senior government ministers in Iran, including President Masoud Pezeshkian and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, and were actively engaged with the US administration as well. Given that the economic pressures in Pakistan have increased significantly due to the West Asia conflict, leading to austerity measures like 4-day work week for government employees and an increase in the price of petrol and diesel by around 20%. Islamabad has compelling reasons to play a part in the de-escalation efforts. Now that Pakistan has taken the proverbial plunge, the question is, can it successfully navigate the risk-prone waters of international diplomacy?
Pakistan and Afghanistan, already mired in bitter conflict, are now bearing the brunt of nature's fury as well. Over the past few days, at least 45 people have been killed in the neighboring countries due to heavy rainfall that has caused severe flooding and landslides. In addition to the lives lost, scores have been wounded and hundreds of homes have been destroyed, further aggravating the misery of the civilians already caught in the cross-border exchange of fire. Our next report brings you the details. Take a look.
Both Pakistan and Afghanistan listed by the United Nations among the countries most vulnerable to extreme weather and climate change, heavy rainfall has played havoc in regions already battered by recent border clashes and airstrikes, thereby turning war zones into disaster zones. Rivers are flowing above the danger mark, landslides have been triggered, exacerbating the plight of communities already struggling to survive the bullets and bombs. Rain sweeping across Afghanistan since last week has triggered floods and landslides in multiple provinces. According to Afghanistan's National Disaster Management Authority, 28 people have been killed in floods and 49 wounded, and more than 100 homes have been destroyed. Most fatalities have been reported from the central and eastern provinces, including Parwan, Maidan Wardak, Daikundi and Logar. Reportedly, a 14-year-old boy died after being struck by lightning in the Badghis province in the northwest. In the same province, 3 others had died while trying to gather driftwood for heating purposes. Authorities say several highways have been closed and more rain and storms are expected. 13 of Afghanistan's 34 provinces have been affected, leaving 147 homes damaged or destroyed, 80 kilometers of roads wiped out, and agricultural land and irrigation systems ruined. According to the officials, the number of casualties could rise as the National Disaster Management Authority continues surveying affected areas. A country already struggling after decades of war, Afghanistan remains particularly vulnerable to extreme weather events. Fragile infrastructure, especially in remote areas, widespread poverty, and homes built of mud leave communities exposed when sudden floods or landslides strike. Across the border in Pakistan's Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, the human toll is equally grim. Heavy rain has caused roofs and walls of houses to collapse, killing at least 17 people, including 14 children, and injuring more than 50.
I belong to Gulam Qadir village. My young children had gone to the market. People in the area said that when they were on the way, heavy rain started. They were near the veranda. As soon as they reached under the veranda to avoid the rain, the veranda collapsed on them. When they were brought to the hospital, 2 of them died on the spot. The rest injured are also in the hospital.
According to the Pakistani authorities, over 430 homes have been damaged, including a mosque in the Bannu region of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, while scores of families are displaced.
We were watching it when suddenly, God allowed, or in fact, disaster struck. There was rumbling sound and half of the entire mosque collapsed. Inside, there were about 35 to 40 people. 3 people died. We saw it with our own eyes.
Schools, businesses and local markets have been forced to close, and aid agencies are racing to provide relief to the affected communities. The disaster comes amid escalating tension between the two countries. Border clashes and airstrikes over the past month have already claimed dozens of civilian lives. Temporary truce for Eid al-Fitr brokered by Saudi Arabia, Turkey and Qatar has expired, and renewed confrontations have erupted along the border. The dual battering by war and extreme weather has amplified human suffering. Though rescue teams and aid agencies are working to reach those affected, many communities remain beyond reach. As both Afghanistan and Pakistan confront the combined impact of war and extreme weather, the focus for now is on relief and recovery and on preventing further loss of life in the days ahead.
In less than 2 weeks since its grand opening on the 16th of March, Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar has already welcomed over 100,000 visitors. The garden has been drawing massive crowds each day, and this is as people flock in large numbers to witness the breathtaking floral spectacle that transforms the Kashmir Valley into a mesmerizing floral wonderland. Our next report tells you more.
Set between Dal Lake and the Zabarwan Hills, Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar has witnessed over 100,000 visitors so far. The tulip garden is home to more than 1.8 million tulips, spanning over 70 vibrant varieties this year. Blooming in spectacular colors, the garden continues to be a major attraction for tourists visiting the Kashmir Valley.
Yesterday evening is 1,20,000. And there's a trend that we have been observing that on the weekends and the holidays, there are at least 20,000 plus visitors in the garden.
In response to the growing influx of visitors, the government has advanced its opening schedule. While the garden traditionally opened in the first week of April, it is now opened 2 weeks earlier, on the 16th of March.
It's very beautiful.
It's incredibly beautiful. Truly mesmerizing to the eyes. The moment I entered, I felt a deep sense of peace just looking at the garden. It's so captivating that I'm almost at a loss for words.
I don't know, it's very beautiful.
Hundreds of gardeners and staff work tirelessly day and night to prepare the garden for the public. It takes nearly 6 months of dedicated effort, with extensive planning beginning well in advance of the garden's opening. A few years ago, the garden was recognized by the World Book of Records, London, as Asia's largest tulip garden.
It's just been less than 2 weeks since the opening of Asia's largest tulip garden in Srinagar city. The Floriculture Department says over 100,000 tourists have visited the garden so far, and the Floriculture Department this year had planted 1.8 million tulips of 70 different varieties. The Floriculture Department says they're hopeful that all the previous records of tourist footfall would be broken this year. With video journalist Firoz Idris Loan for WION World is One.
That's all we could pack into this episode of Inside South Asia, but we leave you with these visuals of a brand new musical extravaganza. It's called the Eurovision Song Contest Asia and is scheduled to be held in November this year. So far, 10 countries, including Bangladesh, Nepal and Bhutan, have confirmed that they will be competing for musical glory. Take a look and we'll be back next week.
5 states, 1 powerful voice. From Tamil Nadu to West Bengal. Kerala to Assam. Every vote shapes the future. Get the election pulse only on WION.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at wion.com.